Okay, we're here towards the end of the session with Stella. Now, the Guardians have a tenant that lives in the back, and Stella has decided she's going to guard the place. So I've set it up with him. He's going to come walking up here in a couple seconds. Now I'm going to start off by doing a little counter conditioning. So I'm letting her chew on the treat while he walks up. And so a little bit of barking, but still staying in a sit, which is good. You're going to go ahead and answer the door. Now I'm going to have and go ahead and just walk on by. Now I don't want to put any tension on the leash. I'm going to pop it if I need to. And he's dropping treats on the floor. So once he comes in, he's going to grab a seat right there. Now I'm going to lead Stella, and this is going to be tricky camera work, towards getting these treats. We're not saying any commands. Eventually she'll know what it is. There you go. Good job. Go ahead and, Stella, open your hand. And hold it down a little bit. Stella. Sit. Sit. So let me explain what's going on real quick, and then we're going to go for a little bit of a mini walk. Now, we want to make sure that we obviously keep everyone safe. And you could film me. I don't need him in the shot. That's fine. You can be in the shot. I just don't want to focus. So basically, what I'd like to do is recreate is, well, actually, no, not with the light source behind. Maybe right here would be better. Let me move a little bit over here. Come here, Stella.
You just switch spots.
Yes. Well, we want to make sure I'm not backlit. Am I backlit already?
No,
there we go. A little bit. Okay. So basically, what we're going to do is when he comes in the room, treats fall from the sky. Now, I don't want her. This is a little bit proximate to the door. That's why I was doing the counter conditioning. So when we're doing this, we want to make sure that we control the person there. Before the person appears, we want to be delivering that treat, doing the counter conditioning exercise that we showed in a different video, the Guardians video. And so you saw and make sure she's in a seated position. Now we could also do the same thing where have her over there, and somebody else comes and answers the door. The problem, or maybe up here on this little shelf would be a good place. We'd like her to be able to see it, but have enough distance where she doesn't feel he's an immediate threat. Then when he comes in, he ignores her. He doesn't look at her, doesn't talk to her. He just starts dropping treats. And once he sits down, we lead her, and she gets to gobble up those treats and go over to him. She gets to give him a sniff. And once she gives him a sniff, he's going to have a treat in his hand. And if she feels nice and relaxed and the guest feels comfortable, she should open his hand and she can lick and take the treat off of his hand. Then at that point, we'd like to call her away from him. So this way, every time he arrives, treats just fall from the sky. It's a positive reinforcement. She's approaching him as opposed to when normally what happens when she sees him, he's approaching, he's walking, and she's stationary. So we're trying to flip that script a little bit. So when he comes in and he's motionary where she's stationary, then when he sits down, then she follows him and gets those treats. And then she gets a little sniff and potentially a treat. But if she doesn't want to take the treat, we're not going to entice. We're going to make it available. She doesn't want to take it. That's totally fine. Now, the last thing we're going to do is we'll have some interesting lighting on this. I'm going to invite the guest to come out on a walk with me. Now, to begin with, I'm going to go out the door first and have the guest, as I go through the door, then I'm going to have you follow. We're going to walk down the driveway and walk down the street a little bit, and I'm going to have you walking in between the dog in between the two of us. And you're just going to kind of follow along. Sit. Now, if she sits or lies down, that's a good indicator. It means that she feels comfortable enough when he's here to put herself in a more subordinate position. This is even better because her feet are off to the side. But she doesn't fully trust him, or fully comfortable because she is again orientated. He is right there. I mean, there's a direct line from her to him. So she's pointing, saying, "I got my eyes on you." But I feel comfortable enough to actually lay down, which is a good sign. If she also does some self-grooming, those are also good signs that we like. Now, I fitted her up with a martingale collar. We're adding the special twist of the leash to give me more control. But the whole point of this is I don't ever want a leash to be what controls the dog. I want to develop the control in the dog itself. The leash is just a safeguard in case some guy comes down the street with a Harley that's got to rev it up to compensate for something. And so this way, if the dog gets startled, the dog is safe. All right, so we're going to go out and we're just going to go for a little mini walk down the block, and I'm going to show you kind of another couple little tricks. Stella, come on, sweetheart.
Derek going with you?
Yep. You can follow along with the camera if you want. Stella, come on, girl. All right, so I'm going to put her on my right, and you just go ahead and, there you go. Stella. Now again, we don't want to pull, we want to pull as little as possible. So the martingale I can pull if I need to, but the idea is we want her to do this on her own because we want this to be a positive experience for her. Can you get the gate for us there? Stella's like, I'm a little confused what's going on here. Stella, we're all going, come on. Good job, Stella. All right, let's have you go that way. Come on, Stella.
She's like, but my owner.
Stella. Stella, come on. Come here, Stella. There you go. So if she doesn't want to go, we could pull her, but it would be better if we could just use a treat on the ground like I just showed you there. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to recreate what we did earlier. Now, dogs get over things by literally moving forward. And so if we go for walks, that helps the dog feel a little bit more comfortable. And it also helps her have another positive association. So we're walking down the street this way. If you want to just, if you want to go on the on that, well, don't get hit, let the car pass. But this way you can kind of see us from the front. I think it'll be a little more effective. Stella. 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 And this is where that hand targeting that I showed you in the other video will come in handy. You just hold your hand out and she'll start following you. All right, Stella. Okay. So if you can get, we're going to hold up a second, get a little ahead of us. Try to keep about this distance. All right, let's go ahead and walk. I'm going to have you get a little bit closer. Now what I want to do is I'm going to switch the leash to our friend here, but I want to do it so she doesn't realize it. We're going to edge this way a little bit. We have a car coming behind you, but it's fine. There's nobody else coming. Now again, she slows down. We have 2 cars coming, so we're going to kind of pause for a second. Stella. All right, so we talked a little bit in the first video. Let's go a little bit closer. Derek, you can come over here. See how she's turned away from where Derek was. This is what I talked about in the first video that we're actually not going to use. But that was, now her guardian is over here. I think she's her primary guardian. She's really targeted by him. But if I pull her and force her away, that creates more of a resentment. So again, we can create that. Dogs are more attracted to movement. So if we toss the treat down, and we'll get to a certain distance where she won't be like this, and if it's not practice, she'll be good with this. Stella. There you go, Stella. Why we filmed these. If you want to come a little bit closer. So what my goal was to hand him the leash and just walk together. She doesn't want to do that. If I force her to do that, that's going to make a negative association. We already have some negative here. So what we're going to do instead is I'm going to take the leash and we're just going to walk together. So let me kind of explain what I want the guardians to do. I'd like to have you go for a daily walk with the dog, and probably with him and with you as well. But after we do this on a regular basis, and we're going to do something a little bit different, kind of what I was thinking about doing earlier, I'm going to give you some treats, and I'm going to have you got some more. Perfect. So now if she doesn't want to come, we're going to use those treats. Now, the proximity of the treats together is going to determine if she wants to take them. So at first we're going to maybe have them about half a foot apart, then a foot apart, and so I'm going to give you some more. So I'm going to stay here. I'm going to have you put one there right where the shadow of my head is, and then go put one about a foot away. There you go. Now we're going to have a car coming. Perfect. And so we're going to let the cars pass, and then let's do one more. And I'm going to let her sniff those treats. And what we're going to do is he's going to follow. He's going to be ahead of us, dropping treats. I'm going to follow her. Go ahead and start walking. That's perfect. She wants to do it. Go ahead and drop another one. Perfect.
Derek, you're like the treat fairy.
Stella. Now first I'm having to point these out for her. After a while I won't have to do that. She'll see it and she'll recognize. And again, I mean, that's a good apropos way of putting it. He is going to have an association with her. This is like every time I go to Grandma's house I get chocolate. I kind of like Grandma's house. Make a kissing sound. And go ahead and put one on the ground. And then just walk away from it. Perfect. So now eventually we would like to have the other person, we can do this with house guests as well, walking next to us. And after a while, the dog is going to be used to this sort of interaction. They're going to be looking for the treats, and they're going to be almost pulling on the leash ahead of us. At that point, then we want to start having the guest walk on the other side of us. And what we might do is be walking down the street, and maybe the guest is on that side, or the other person is on the other side of the street. We're walking down, and eventually what we want to do is we want to walk and eventually get like this, but we're going to start off with the guest ahead of us. And so it's really going to be more like at this angle, and then we're going to catch up with them and walk parallel together. And then once we get to the turnaround point, or at some point on the leash, we want to hand the leash to the other person. So let's go ahead and do a couple more, and then we're going to turn around and go back. So do one wherever the, perfect. Now you see her body looks nice and relaxed, her tail is low. Well, low is actually not always that ideal situation, but her ears look neutral. She's not scanning, she's not panting heavy, so she's showing us a lot of good indicators. If you could walk on your neighbor's lawn, if we could just have you walk into an arc here. You're gonna stay right there. She wants to go back that way to her guardian. So this should be easier walking this way. She should want to walk this way. So at first when you're doing this, you might have to have the guest drop the treats, and once you get to the turnaround point, then the guest maybe is going to try to walk next to him. We'll try to see if we can get him holding the leash. All right, do you have any more? How many more treats do you have? 4. Okay, so let's put one there and about every 3 feet. There you go. All right, now you're just going to walk next to us. Perfect. So she wants to go in this direction. Again, we don't want to force the dog to do anything. But by doing this, and she associates, number 1, I go for a walk. Number 2, he's the treat fairy. Number 3, we're moving forward, and we're doing it when we're relaxed. Keep your arm hanging down, nice and relaxed, perfect. Now, for you, I want you not to do any leash corrections or anything like that. We just want you to be the handler. So after a while, now there's a skateboard coming. Now, that's a problem for her, correct? That's not, okay, awesome. And we have a motorcycle. So now we're going to go ahead and stop right here. I'm going to have you ask her to sit.
Still sit.
Still sit. And then go up over her head. And open your hand, let her have the treats. Sit.
Sit.
Nice. Now again, we want to keep no tension on the leash. We want to keep it nice and relaxed. And so then basically, if we can do this, now if you do it a couple times a day, after about a week or so, you should start seeing that she has a different association with him. Now there's a couple other things that we can do that are kind of sneaky things. So one of the things I'm going to have the guardians do is grab some of her food, and he's going to basically, without her being present, take the food, a handful, put it in his hand, and then rub his hands on it and put it in a Ziploc bag or something. And then basically we're going to feed her that food with his scent on it, creating another positive association. Last little trick that we could do is next time if you work out or do something where you're sweaty, take a hand towel or and wipe yourself off it, washcloth will do as well. Do that and then put it in a Ziploc bag and give it to the guardians. Then what you guys can do, this sounds freaky, but it's not, is you just lay it on the floor, and when she comes over and sniffs it, you add a treat. Or if she won't come sniff it, we just put a treat on it, and only do it with her, not with the other dogs. Mm-hmm. So she comes over and she gets a little bit of a scent and gets the treat.
Yeah.
Now the last little thing that we could do, well, I could go over some behavior adjustment training, but I want to go slow and steady and give good progress. I don't want to push too far. I'm afraid if we do too much more, we might eclipse that and get into a situation where we're going to set things back. How do you feel?
Good.
Now, let's go ahead and tell her to sit again.
Still sit.
And relax the leash. Put the treat in front of her nose. Make a kiss. Now raise it over her head like in this pattern. And try not to look at her directly in the eye. There you go. And tell her to sit again.
Still sit.
And then give it to her. Say sit.
Sit.
Perfect. You have 3 dogs, so saying multiple dog names is okay, but in this case, if just you and her, just say the word sit or whatever it is. But after a while, when you're able to walk down the street without having to do the treats, and when we hand you the leash, every once in a while we have her stop and say, stop first, say sit. When she sits, offer her a treat, say the word sit after she takes it, and then take another, and walk up to 5 steps before you stop again, tell her to sit. After a while, she's going to start watching you. Every time he stops, if I sit, I get a treat. And eventually, you'll get to the point where you stop and she'll auto sit. And then make sure, and when she does that, give her like 5 treats that time and say sit, sit, sit. And that way, in that hand targeting exercise I showed you also will help her get more accustomed to licking treats off of hands, so you don't have to worry about your fingertips, and she feels a lot more comfortable. And the more that, and again, we're taking advantage of being outside. There's distractions outside, like the bat training in the video we're not going to show, but we're also, it's more open space, so she doesn't feel so constricted. In the backyard, it's more constricted. In the house, it's much more constricted. So I think if we can do this for a week or two, she'll get to the point, and go ahead and walk with her. She's going to get to the point where she feels comfortable enough being with him that he no longer is a threat, and I don't have to bark or alert to him because he's a part of our pack. He takes me for walks, treats fall from the sky. These are some tips and tricks you can use if you have a dog that is reactive to people.